What is up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with the latest episode of the Team Building Podcast. We've got a phenomenal guest here today, and we have a topic that we're going to cover that is always on the top of team leaders' minds and really any high-producing agent that's looking to expand, because we're talking about ISAs. And we've got a gentleman here with us who has coached ISAs under the Ben Kinney team, is now building his own team, has a ton of experience with coaching ISAs, and we're going to talk about some of the keys to success, some of the unconventional things, and things that he does differently than other teams around the country who are using the ISA model. We're going to talk about some of the things that he's seen work and things that don't work. And we've got a bunch of stuff to get into. I know it's going to be super, super valuable for everybody in the audience that's looking at or already using ISAs in their team models. So first of all, Jeff Coates, officially welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt. I love what you do, and this is awesome.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate that. What we've done is we've replaced Jeff with a Jeff. So Jeff Cohn is out of town. Unfortunately, he is not able to join us, and he's going to be out for a couple weeks. So he's got a big family vacation. So he's going to try to join us for one or two of those episodes over the next few weeks from his Safari hotel or something like that. We'll see if Jeff can join us over the next few weeks, but otherwise we're going to keep on trucking. We're going to have some amazing guests. But I thought it was hilarious that we just replaced Jeff Cohn with Jeff Coates. So yeah, a couple of letters and same difference.
Yeah. He didn't want to join us from the Safari.
Exactly. Oh, all right. So Jeff, give us, for those that don't know you, give us an idea of your background. Where did you kind of come out from and where you're at now?
Oh man, that's a long story. That's a whole nother podcast, man.
That's right. Well, let's talk about the team's specific background and kind of where you were at in real estate.
Yeah. So I wound up working at a mortgage company for a little while, and because of my background, I would do a lot of public speaking across the country and in universities and prisons and a bunch of different places. And after one of my talks, I was at a restaurant and I was sitting next to this guy and he was kind of just looking at his phone, looking real angry. And I just kind of looked over at him and was like, man, if your phone shouldn't be making you look that angry. And he looked over at me and kind of smiled and he said, what's your name? And I said, oh, my name is Jeff. What's your name? He said, oh, my name is Ben. I was like, all right. And he said, what brings you to the restaurant? We just kind of made friends. And then later on, it turns out that Ben is actually Ben Kinney. And so that's kind of how our friendship began, was sitting next to each other at this restaurant. And he was mad dogging his phone. But
you have like deals falling out of escrow or something?
I don't know. At the time I was working IT in a mortgage company and wound up getting laid off. And one of my friends said, man, why don't you go take your real estate test and try to get into real estate because, that's been your passion. And I was like, all right, I'll try it. So I looked into seeing if I could get the test because as most people know about me and my story, I was in prison. So there's I don't know if I could get the license and stuff.
Right.
Found out I could get the license, started taking my test, wound up passing, and I was like, man, what do I do? And then I was like, who do I know? And I was like, that guy Ben was in real estate. So I texted him and I was like, hey man, I just passed my test. What do I do? And he was like, you fly to Texas. And I'm like, oh yeah, just fly to Texas. Just come on a plane. But he was like, yeah, fly to Texas and I'll cover your hotel and just get there. And I was like, all right. So I flew to Texas and it was mega agent camp for Keller Williams. And it's kind of funny because I hadn't really been on a plane. My phone died on the plane. So I get to this hotel room, I plug it in and I'm like, I got to go find Ben because he invited me here. So I put all my stuff down and I walk over to the convention center. I walk in there, and I don't know if you've ever been to a family reunion, but it's huge, 20,000 people in this room. And I'm standing there, no phone, and I'm like, how in the heck do I find Ben? This is going to be crazy.
Okay.
Not even 2 minutes later, he walks out on the stage to talk to everybody. And I'm like, who in the heck is Ben? Who is this guy?
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I figured out who Ben was. And after the event, we flew back and I went over to his house and we were talking and he said, join my team, and get a foundation for your career by being an ISA on my team. And I took the opportunity, of course. And I think that he weighed like how much I've had to go through to even be there in that moment, going through prison for so long, getting out, hustling with the mortgage company. I tested and passed the state and national test to get my loan officer license, but at the time, the state and federal laws in our country wouldn't allow me to be a loan officer. So I stuck with the IT stuff, joined Ben's team, and then started doing ISA stuff with him, with his team here in Seattle, and learning the systems that are in play, Mojo, Boomtown, and just kind of going and doing my thing. Stuck with ISA. The agents would come on the team, and the team leader there would say, can you help onboard these agents and start training them to use the systems like you do? Because ideally, you want, as an ISA, you want your agents to kind of act like ISAs as well. You want them making their calls, doing their follow-up, and setting their appointments for themselves. So that's all an ISA does, except the ISA is also doing it to set appointments for the whole team and for all the agents on the team, So I started doing that and stepping into that role. Was doing some more public speaking, wound up going to Philadelphia and joining an organization called One Life Fully Lived with Tim Rode and Matt Aitchison. And I was talking to a couple of guys there, and they said, you have a legendary story and you're underneath a legend with Ben Kenny. And they said, eventually you're going to have to separate from that and grow your story. And you can't have a legendary story and be under a legend. You're going to have to kind of grow your wings and make it happen for yourself.
Yeah.
And so worked it out and wound up leaving the Ben Kenny team. And I started my own real estate team, Rain City Northwest. And, I've been trying to crush goals with that team at the same time as training agents across the country for the ISA role. So, and I call it ISA training, but really you can train an agent, you can train a team, you can train a team of ISAs. It's all the same. It's all the same training. You're teaching people to make phone calls, to prospect. You're teaching them to prospect, but more importantly, you're teaching them I teach them how to use the tools to prospect, so that you can convert leads and you can get to the appointments that everybody talks about in their books. I've read some books by people that talk about ISAs, and I'm like, I can totally tell you've never been an ISA, and you wrote this book based on something,
Well, let's talk about some of the things that are a dead giveaway to you. So what are the things that you feel like people are trying to do with ISAs when they've never been in that role before, that are kind of a dead giveaway to you, that they've never done it themselves, that they've never been in the trenches as an ISA?
When they talk about just the numbers. When you read a book and they just talk about the numbers and they're like, this many calls, this many appointments, this will lead to this, and they're not talking about the follow-up. They're not talking about the humanity of the position, for lack of a better word, they're not talking about what it really takes to be talking to somebody on a cold call, and talking about being nobody comes out in a book and tries to say, be salesy. Nobody says that.
Right.
They say their focus is on the numbers. It's a numbers game. I agree. I'm not saying that it's not a numbers game. I do agree that it is a numbers game. However, it's a number game coupled with follow-up, coupled with humanity, coupled with personality, coupled with training. I think all of that comes into play.
Let me ask you, when you talk about the humanity side, and we were talking a little bit about this before we went live, you're a big advocate of letting the ISA, encouraging the ISA to kind of be themselves, to be human on the phone, to be themselves on the phone. Does that translate into them sticking around for longer and that being a more sustainable role for them, so there's not as much turnover in the ISA position?
Oh man, turnover is a hard subject to talk about, because when the ISA is in the position and they start seeing the potential that they have to earn differently as an agent. That's the reason for turnover.
Gotcha.
And what's hard about that is finding that ISA and finding that ISA that understands that, and you hire them not because they are looking for gain, they're looking for long term. That's
okay.
When you hire an
So
ISA,
hiring someone that's not as opportunistic.
It's not even really about opportunistic. It's about, I have a family. I need a structured income. I like the base pay, and I like the potential for growth with my commission. And the base pay covers my bill. Maybe they're in a 2-income family, and they're like, my base pay covers my portion of the bills in the household, and now the commission allows me to earn more and help my family more and benefit my family more. It almost is the same game that happens with trying to retain agents on a team. A lot of teams go after agents who are brand new in the business, and they use it as a machine, right? The machine is recruit, and then the turnover rate is high because a lot of times the agents that they're recruiting are more new. And then the agents get into the business and they do their first couple deals and they're like, whoa, I just made $10,000, but I just only got $5,000. So,
right.
So I want the whole 10, and then they get the whole 10, and well, then they leave the team, and then they realize, man, where do I get my leads from?
Yeah.
And then you're like, they're like, where do I get my leads from? And then they're like, oh, I have to pay to get those leads. I have to find systems. I have to do things. And then that $5,000 that I just got actually just went out the window because I have to pay for all these systems. And then you're like, oh, that's why I'm on a team.
Yeah, and that's what I think is interesting. It's the role of risk and how much risk somebody's willing to take on. To me, an ISA, just from what I've observed and the people that seem to be doing it well, and I'm just reflecting on even how I would approach a position like that. The only way I would stay in a position like that is if I understood the potential that I had, that yes, I'm doing the hardest part of being an agent, right? The prospecting is the hardest part. So if I'm going to do that part, the only reason I would stay in that position is because I either don't want to deal with the clients, and I have like a low enough eye. Well, like my eye is high enough that I can be good on the phone, but low enough that I don't actually want to see people in person. So that's one. But more importantly is the risk, Yeah, exactly, like Greg. But the other part is the risk, and I think that's part of what helps you retain good agents on your team. Not necessarily spectacular agents, right? Everybody wants a rock star agent, but part of being a rock star agent is you can do it all yourself. Like, you're the rock star, right? There's not as much incentive for them to stick around. But if there are a risk-averse rock star, if they have all the capabilities, but for whatever reason, they just don't want to shell out the money themselves for Boomtown, for Mojo, for all the systems, for Zillow, for building a farm, for sending out the postcards, like if they just don't have the personality profile to do it, then they may be willing to stay in that ISA or an agent role for longer, maybe even years. Maybe they never leave because they just don't want to handle the risk. And I think to me, that's kind of the sweet spot that I found where people can retain like a really rock star ISA or a rock star agent, is when they find that person that for whatever reason they just don't want the risk of going out and putting the cash down.
I agree with that. However, when you hire new agents and hire new ISAs, they don't know about that risk, right? They don't know.
That is the danger, yes. If they're brand new, you're right. They just don't know. They don't understand that it is a risk. Right.
They don't know. And see, that's what I talk to team leaders about that hire me, is I ask them, what does your onboarding look like? How much do you share with an agent or an ISA coming on board? Because I think it's important to be transparent, like with your systems. Like, okay, I have Boomtown. Okay, you have Boomtown. Do they know how much that costs you out of your pocket? Do they know how much it costs you to send the postcards? Do you have a farm? Yes, I have a farm. Okay, do they know what it costs you to print those postcards? Do they know what it costs you to mail those postcards? And do you do that every month? Oh, you do it twice a month. okay, so the reality is if you show some of your numbers, you don't have to show all your numbers, but if you show some of your numbers and say, the value of you being on my team is this. I do this, this, and this. It costs me this, this, and this. It's a lot of money, and I'm proactively doing it, not just for myself, but I'm doing it for you so you can get those leads to call. And when you get those leads, that's why you're getting those leads, is because I've done this, this, and this, and I'm setting the expectations on the front end to find that rock star agent that sticks with me instead of the agent that comes on board and is like, damn, I just closed a $20,000 commission house and I get $10,000. Well, that's BS. I want off here and I want to go make 20 grand. And It's like, okay, now you're off the team. Now what? Well, I don't know. I was making calls. Yeah, but who are you calling? Well, they had leads for me. Yeah. Where'd that lead come from? You know? I get people that will call me too and say, hey, I just left team XYZ and I have this deal that I'm closing, and do I owe them a commission? And I'm like, well, how'd you get the lead? Well, I did an open house. I'm like, okay, you did an open house, but how did you get that open house? Well, I called an agent and I asked him if I could do the open house for them. Okay, but what team did you say you represented when you did that? Oh, I said I represented this team. Okay, then you owe them 50%. You owe them whatever your contract is, because their reputation is what got you there. Like their hard work and their branding and their stuff got you that lead and got you in that position, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of going on a different road of ISA, but that's it all is relative and all connects, because ISAs do the same thing. They leave a team and hey, I've been working with these 5 people for the last 4 months and I haven't set an appointment, but now that I'm off the team, they called me and they want to go and do a transaction. Okay, well, that's part of the team, you know. You gotta. That's the team. That's not you anymore, you know.
Yeah. So if you're coaching ISAs, tell me a little bit about your approach to building a team of people that can work well, either independently or together. I don't know, what your philosophy is, but tell me a little bit about kind of what the ideal ISA team looks like to you and how is it run?
That's a big question. I think ISAs are really, I feel, is more of like a independent, you know, like, I don't know if, I think it's good to have competition with each other, and I think competition always drives you to man, how'd that guy get 5 deals this month and I only got 1? You know, I like that aspect of things. However, when it comes down to it, it's really more independent and personal, because the team isn't on the phone with you. The team isn't figuring out your follow-up. You know, the first thing an ideal ISA team looks like, and I'll break it down to individual, since I feel like it really comes down to the individual, is the follow-up game. Before you make a phone call, what does your follow-up system look like? Do you have an action plan set up in Mojo? Whatever dialer you're using, you know. Maybe you're not using a dialer, but you're using a spreadsheet and you're just hand dialing. If you're doing that, get a dialer. That's the first thing that I would say. But what does your follow-up game look like? You know, okay, I'm going to call this guy today. I screenshotted this thing the other day. This guy did an online training and he said, this is what my expired follow-up looks like. Call. And I'm like, no, that's not, who's following this? And he charged like $500 a month to coach. And I'm like, no, you're following.
And the follow-up plan was call. That was it. One word, call.
Call. And I'm just like, okay, the follow-up plan, what does your follow-up plan looks like? You just got this person on the phone. It's an $800,000 house. This is the first time they've talked to you. You think they want to sell their house with you right now? First call right now. They're ready. Oh, this is my biggest investment. Joe from XYZ just called me. I think I'll go with him. No. Yeah. The 9 to 12 touches it says to get into a client, right? So what's your follow-up game look like? You call them on the phone. All right. You know where they live. You just called them. So send them a note. Send them something and be like, hey, thanks for the follow-up. Thanks for talking to me on the phone. Really appreciate you. I know that you got harassed by 25 realtors this morning, blah, blah, blah. You know, set yourself apart. Find some value, you know. Don't even ask for anything in the note. Just say hello and say thanks. thanks for talking to me. And I know you had a rough day. And by the time you get this note, you probably talked to 100 more realtors. And I'm going to give you a call tomorrow and see if you got my card, and I'll be 112. Whatever, something that kind of just makes them smile, jokes around a little bit. And then when you call them, now it's not so cold because they actually remember you on the next call because I called, I sent my note, I call again, maybe they'll give me the email address this time because maybe they didn't the first time, or maybe they did. You got your scripts down, you got your objection handlers down, you got the email address. So now you incorporate that email. I was watching this thing the other day that said that don't text them. And I was like, and the guy's a good teacher who I watched. Yeah. And I said, I don't agree with that. I think you don't have to ask them to list their house in a text message. You can be normal human being in the text message and be like, hey man, this is Jeff. I talked to you the other day. Just hope your day is going good. And if you had any questions about the market, I'm still here. Just letting you know. Don't be salesy. Hey, I want to list your house right now. Come on, man. This text message is going to make you convinced to do it with me.
Right. Yeah. It's just to leave a positive impression, and it's a touch. And I 100% agree. I do think that specifically the texting thing is funny because me and Greg McDaniel go around and around about this.
Yeah.
Because he makes fun of me for the fact that I would rather hey, don't cold call me. I would literally rather get a text out of the blue or a text and then a call, like a text telling me who they are and then a call, because otherwise I'm just not going to pick up. He doesn't want to get a text ever and doesn't want to text anybody ever because and there's only 3 or 4 years between us. We're both millennials, or no.
Yeah.
I think he's late Gen X. I'm early millennial. So that just those few years is enough of a difference to feel that complete difference of opinion on texting. And so I think there's a big generational thing going on there. If I were in the business, if I were hitting the ground right now and I was new and I'm calling on people that are my age and younger, 35 and younger, I wouldn't hesitate to text. Now, if they're my parents' age, my parents don't want to get a text from somebody they don't know at all, ever.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on who you're talking to.
But it also depends on the person too, because if I pulled up my phone right here and showed you this guy, I'm texting a 68-year-old guy about a car. This guy texted me. He texted me. And what's interesting is the other day he sent me a GIF in the text message string too, and I was like, this dude's 68, and he just texted me a GIF. So I was,
hey, you never know.
I was also at a party the other day, and I said, this is a little off base, but I was looking at all these 22 to 28-year-olds all on their phone, and I got them all to sit at the table with me, and I said, I just got one question. And they were like, yeah. And I said, if you saw an ad from me on Instagram, would you click on it? And they all said no.
Okay.
And I was like, but then I got deeper, and I said, well, what do you like? And they all said clothes. And I was like, okay, so what brand? And then they said a brand, and I said, so if you saw an ad for that brand of clothes, would you click on that? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So if you wanted to sell your house and you saw an ad from me, would you click on that? And then they're like, yeah. Mm-hmm. So then I just thought that was interesting how we went from a whole complete no to then, I do like something, and then I'll click on that. And then
yeah, things are changing. So getting back to just where this fits into follow-up, a couple things. So you talk a lot about the humanity of it.
Yeah.
And giving ISAs the freedom to kind of adjust their follow-up plans to both their personality and the personality of the person they're talking to.
Well, I don't know about the freedom of it. I would say to the team leader. I would say the team leader, because you don't know what somebody's follow-up plan looks like, and you need to have systems and models that you can follow and you can and scale, right? So, so as the team leader, you're spending thousands of dollars to set this system up. And then you get this ISA and you're like, here's the phone, here's the dialer, good luck, take care.
Right.
No, you're missing a key part. The dialer and the systems all have tools that are never taught a lot of times to ISAs and to agents. For instance, Mojo has an action plan in there where you can set up stuff for follow-up, for your follow-up. You can set up reminder emails, set up a note to ping the ISA or the agent to say, hey, text this lead. They got your letter today, send a postcard, ping you to make.
Don't stop with just setting up the system. Don't stop with just setting up Boomtown and Mojo. And then then expect an ISA just to kind of cut loose and have great numbers without setting up a follow-up system for them.
Yeah, and you can have your email drip campaigns inside Mojo as well. A lot of people don't know this, but inside Mojo, you can set action plans that have scheduled emails that go out for a lead, and you can turn it on, and then and you can keep getting pinged. As you can tell, I talk a lot about Mojo. I like Mojo a lot, but I also know that Vulcan 7 has it. There's other systems,
yep,
and all systems actually. There's your drip campaigns and your follow-up. And a lot of people say, oh, I don't like a drip campaign. Well, don't think of it like that. A drip campaign can be as awesome as the amount of effort that you put into it. If you go get a template and you put it on autopilot and there's spelling errors in there and there's some Joe Bob's name in there because you never read the email that you're sending out to your database, then yeah, I wouldn't expect that you get a result, But if you take the time to sit down and get something realistic in place for a follow-up system, and then you teach your agents and your ISAs how to use those systems, not just one piece, not just turn on the dialer, press go, but hey, this system has these emails. We have these branded emails in here. We have birthday emails. If you find out that it's somebody's birthday, you can get them on that drip for a birthday touch or a holiday touch or whatever it is. That's another touch that helps your ISA or helps your agents on your team to convert, and it's just one more thing in the pipeline. A lot of people hire an ISA and say make calls. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm saying yes, do that, but give them the tools to help them with the next call and the next call and the next call, so that by the ninth touch, we got somebody saying, hey, come talk to me. Let's talk about your marketing plan. And some people think, well, how are you going to get 9 touches in a couple days, because most people will relist their house within a week or whatever. Mm-hmm. Have your follow-up do it. Like, have your follow-up plan. It can all be done right now. Boom, 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 One agent that I know, what he likes to do is he likes to call them on the phone, send a note, and then in a couple days he stops by. He stops by their house. And I said, when did you start doing that? He said, well, I used to be an ISA, and that's what I did as an ISA, is I wanted to do a drive-by touch. Like, I just wanted them to see my face, so that the next time they talked to me on the phone, they knew it was me. And he's like, there was nothing wrong with that. Like, he was like, I wasn't trying to talk numbers. I wasn't trying to do anything that the agent would do. I just wanted him to feel, him or her, whatever, to get that personal touch. Now, I'm not telling you to have your ISAs go door knock people all the time. That's not what I'm saying.
Although I will say that Veronica, who's watching right now, she's a licensed ISA down in Texas. She says, I stopped by. It's extremely effective. I think Veronica, if I remember right, took like something like $800,000 worth of listings in small town Texas here over the last month or so. I think they all came, if I remember right, and Veronica, if you're watching, still correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they all came from her picking up the phone, calling expired listings, and then showing up and physically stopping by, exactly like you said. So she's crushing it out there just by being willing to take that extra step.
Yeah, you got to have the outside of the box thinking, because here's what I say. I used to show this picture. There's this local team here. I didn't even know this, but I wound up getting on some Facebook group, and I was like, man, that looks like downtown Kirkland, which is a little local area. And sure enough, this guy has a whole team of ISAs just cold calling. And so what I show other ISAs is I say, this is your competition right here. Everybody's calling the same people. What are you going to do different than these people in order to get the appointment? Like, what's your next step? And so people say they have all kinds of things, but that's how I met the guy that talked about door knocking. He said, man, I just go knock on the door and I leave a little introduction about the team. And I was like, well, that's unique. That's something different. And so, and I think that your personality plays a part too. A lot of people hear the trainings to put a mirror in front of you. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in putting the mirror in front of you. And I mean, right now I'm on this podcast and I'm always encouraged to be smiling, because I don't want to look like I'm just bored to death here, just talking to you, right? So I can see my face, and I'm like, okay, I'm smiling. I'm trying to make sure that we're connecting and engaged. And I might not see the other person on the phone, but I can see myself. And if myself is not feeling it, that person on the other side of the phone ain't feeling it either,
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
And you can see that in phone calls that you have to make in your day-to-day life too. Like if you have to call Verizon or AT&T or Sprint, because everybody's had to do that, right? Or if you had to call
Right.
Comcast or Frontier or Xfinity or whoever you got, you always get that person. Sometimes it's like, welcome to AT&T. How can I help you today? What's your first and last name? They don't have a mirror. They need a mirror.
Exactly. They need a lot of things, but yes, a mirror would be one of those. And Veronica says, I do that. It is awesome. So Veronica is crushing it for a reason, because she's taking a lot of the steps that you're talking about. So in the last few minutes that we have left, Jeff, I just want you to share a little bit about the book that you're working on, and kind of when people can start keeping an eye out for that, and then we'll talk about how they can connect with you. But what's the book Reset about?
So the book Reset is a book about my life in a way. A lot of people that know my story, I went to prison when I was 14 years old, and I did 17 years in prison, in the adult prison system. And it was quite a journey. Then I got out and got into real estate. I call real estate the poor man's wealth. But and I've accomplished big goals. And so the book is called Reset, RES3T. There's a reason why the 3 is in there. You'll have to read the book to find that out. It's in relation to the 3 F's. Mm-hmm. But the book, I didn't want to write a book that I was like, here's my life. Who wants to read a book about some kid that went to prison and the end? He's a realtor. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. No, I wanted to do a book that said, this is what I went through, and I've had to reset my mindset multiple times throughout my life to accomplish big goals. And so there's the dedicated 8. I think there's 8 principles that lead anybody to accomplish a big goal, no matter where they are in their life. You could be in prison, you could be in addiction, you could be in a bad relationship, you could be sitting at a 9-to-5 job that you hate, and you can change your life and your circumstances right now by following 8 dedicated principles and changing your life and being dedicated to it. And I use my story along with many inspiring people across the country's stories to show that these dedicated 8 principles can help you change your life. And so I wanted to write a book about my life, but also create a book that educates people on how they can turn their lives around and accomplish big goals right now if they wanted to.
That's awesome. And Juan is watching with us. He says, you go, Jeff. Veronica says that is a hell of a story. I 100% agree. So I'm pumped for the book. It sounds like it's going to be amazing, and we'll have to get you back on like Real Estate Uncensored and get you on with Greg McDaniel, and you guys can just go back and forth about big goals. It'd be awesome. You guys would love that. So we'll have to do that. But in the meantime, like, how do people connect with you and kind of stay up with what you're doing so that when the book officially launches, they get notified?
Yeah, if teams are looking for coaching or for the ISA or any of that stuff, you can connect with me at connect with me at jcoates@kw.com. That's my email address, jcoates, COATS, @kw.com. That's really the best way to connect, because then we can do the follow-up calls. I don't need my phone blows up all the time already as it is, so it's probably best to start there and then move forward and hear what your needs are and go from there. And if you want to follow the book launch, you can email that email, or you can email Jeff at res3t.com. That's my email address for the book. So either platform, or connect with me on Facebook too. No problem there as well.
Yep, Jeff Coates, COATS. So make sure if you guys are watching this, you probably shared it from, you saw the live broadcast shared from my page. So guys, if you like connect up with Jeff, just shoot him a friend request, message him on Facebook. But yeah, make sure to stay connected. And then I want to mention a couple of things, just since Jeff Cohn is not here to do it himself, I'll do it for him. But there was a couple of things you mentioned on like the email follow-up plans, for example. Yeah. So all of Jeff Cohn and his team's email follow-ups are in the Google Drive that you actually get access to for free. So for anyone that comes to the workshop or anyone that gets involved in ERS live stream coaching for the team leader, you actually get all of Elite Real Estate Systems intellectual property. So all the spreadsheets, all the tools, all the tracking, how to build it, how to use the internal tracking that actually shows up on a Gecko board so you can display that in your office, like all of that stuff, including the pre-written, like customizable email campaigns. They're all of their follow-up systems for Boomtown, including exactly how to use all of the different buckets that Boomtown kind of sets up for you, what standards to set, like all that stuff. So if anybody's interested, or if you're thinking about coming out to a workshop, you do get all of that stuff. You go home and leave and have lifetime access to all that stuff. So I wanted to point that out. All that stuff is on EliteRealEstateSystems.com. You can click on the workshop page, or you can click on the live stream page, depending on whether you're looking to go and hang out with Jeff and his team in Omaha and see this stuff like in person, or if you want to do more remote coaching where you and your team can plug into live high-def video training 3 to 4 times a week. So that's all on the website. And then make sure also to go to just support the podcast. Make sure to reach out. Thank Jeff for coming on the show. So if you go and leave a rating or review on iTunes, make sure to mention Jeff Coates. Tell him that he did a fantastic job on the show. Give him a public shout out so people know what episode to go listen to that you enjoyed. And then if you are a team leader and you know someone that would benefit from hearing what we talked about, someone who's thinking about hiring an ISA would definitely benefit from this episode, because Jeff, what you had to share today will prevent a lot of people from making a lot of very costly, expensive mistakes. And so we appreciate that.
For sure. And to piggyback on that real quick, I forgot about tracking. Tracking is a big deal. Like as a team leader, I've had some team leaders say, oh, I trained my ISA on Mojo or this and that. And I go and look up the ISA's numbers and there's nothing there. And I'm like, well, what happened? Oh, he doesn't really use that he pulls from the MLS and he does this. I'm like, no. I'm like, you need to be able to track. But more importantly, I tell the ISAs, the tracking really isn't for the team leader. You should be just as concerned about tracking as well, because you need to track your own results so that you know when you're getting better, so that you know how you're converting leads and what you're doing differently to get those appointments. And it's just as important for you to be tracking as well, So
yeah, I've talked a lot about this with a mentor of mine who's working on. He's working on a long article called the Metrics Manifesto, and a lot of it is about people's relationship to numbers and why people don't want to track numbers. And it's extremely fascinating stuff. But yes, I agree. Both for the team leader and the ISA themselves should want to track everything. We don't, and we don't want to a lot of times, and that has to do with our relationship with numbers. So maybe we'll get on to talk about that. That's a whole other very, very fascinating topic to me. So, but anyway, we are out of time for today. So guys, I appreciate you watching. Everybody, I didn't get a chance to really publicly thank everybody that jumped on. Like Mark Martin was here, Veronica was watching and commenting throughout. A bunch of other people kind of jumped on the Facebook Live. That's right. So just want to thank everybody for doing that. We'll be back next week with another amazing guest. And until then, we will see you.